Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Great to see all of you. It's been a while since I've done a proper video on some of the things that I've been pilot testing and getting ready to really kind of dive into and start thinking about in more detail. Done a lot of unboxings. Obviously, you've seen a lot of different devices come in. And the first device, and the one that you all voted on actually to be the most important that you wanted to see, was the Note Air 5C. And this is going to be the first video in probably two, maybe even a third one, where I'm going to go through and talk about some of what I see as the biggest strengths and maybe some of the shortcomings of this device. So I'm going to talk about the things I really love about it, the things I get frustrated with. And I think that hopefully by the time we're done with this series, you'll really get an understanding for how I think about organization and kind of what my pain points were in trying to use this device in my regular workflow. And just a little bit of background for those of you who may be new to the channel. My workflow is as a director for the Center for Teaching and Learning. And so in that role, I engage with faculty from engineering, nursing, arts and sciences, all over the place. And in doing so, I'm in a lot of meetings. I'm in committee meetings, I'm in faculty meetings, and I'm in staff meetings. And so it's really important for me to be able to categorize and really organize my information. And BOOX is a powerhouse. I'm not even about to sit here and tell you that you can't organize yourself using a BOOX device. Absolutely can. What the pain point is if you aren't an Android user for one, and if you're not really interested in digging into a bunch of menus. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, a pretty steep learning curve, but also could add some frustration where you may not need it. So the first thing I would always say is to think about what you want to do. If you want just to replace paper, there are other devices out there that may be a better fit for you. However, if you want something that's probably the closest to an Android tablet on the market that can do almost anything, BOOX is probably your preferred device. Now, when I say close to an Android tablet, it is Android, but it's not going to give you that fast, screaming fast performance, that high resolution OLED or that LCD screen. It's just not going to do that. And if you go in with that expectation, if you go in thinking that you're going to get that kind of vibrancy and color, you're going to be let down. And I don't want you to be let down. If you go in, however, knowing that you want ink and you want kind of that newspaper, printed paper feel in some ways, you're going to get much closer to that with this technology. Now, there are going to be some trade-offs. If you don't need color, there are plenty of good black and white devices, whether they're BOOX or one of the competitors like Supernote or Remarkable. They are going to be very much something you should think about looking into. But in this series, we're going to look at the Note Air 5C. It's the latest color device from BOOX. I don't have the Tab XC, which is the larger device and when we get to the Note Max, you'll see that 13.3-inch device. But this is the latest generation of the Carta 1300 screen. It's 300 PPI, 150 color, and it's Kaleido 3 technology. So we'll talk a little bit about Kaleido 3 in one of the upcoming videos. But for right now, we've talked a little bit in the unboxing about this, but I want to show you more use cases. There are plenty of other videos out there that go through all of the tech specs, and I don't want to really do that right now. I'd rather show you what I am actually using the device for on a daily basis. But let's go ahead, jump over, take a look, and I will see you here in just a little bit. All right, everyone. So here we are with the Note Air 5C. And I mentioned in my blog on this and in the intro that this is a really interesting and complex device for me, and something that I feel that I really needed to take my time to consider. I needed to daily drive it and really use it as much as I could to its fullest potential. And that's what I've tried to do over the last on and off for a month, but at least 2 weeks dedicated. So when I say on and off for a month, I may have switched to the Note Max to be able to grade. I may have switched to the 10.3 just to test it out a little. But this was the device I used almost all the time. And there are a few things I learned along the way with this device. First of all, is I was surprised, and Kid has mentioned this in many of his videos about how little he uses the front light. Now, in this video, you're going to see this is being shot in 8K and it will go down to 4K when I release it. But the idea is that right now in normal light, this is highlight, but when I am in the office working and doing what I need to do, this light can stay off. And I have no issues with that whatsoever. It is a little bit darker gray, which again, it's harder to see with this bright light that I have, but it's very readable. The contrast is good. I don't have any problems with it. This is actually the Heaven and Earth grocery store, but I do want to show you what the difference is. So for example, they give you some presets, which I really like about this device. And so you have your bright preset. And so that takes that up to about 20 on the cold light. You have soft, which takes it a little bit more warm and a little bit less cold light. You have the custom, which is what I generally leave it set on. And you'll notice that that brings that quite a bit up from the other modes. So it changes it quite a bit from being completely off. So you should be able to see it's a pretty decent difference. And the warm is nice. And I put all those on their regular standard presets. And the only thing that I really made my own was that custom. And that just gave me just that little bit more warm light. But I really don't need it for day to day in the office tasks because I have a large light right above my desk. So that doesn't cause me any trouble whatsoever. But so this is inside the Kindle app, and I've been reading this book now for almost a year and I still haven't gotten through it, but I love it. And I just keep running out of time and I borrow it on Libby. So it's a library book and then it keeps going back. And it's probably one of the most popular books I've ever seen because it's always like a month wait list to be able to get back and get the book. But I want to show you a few things that I have found very useful on this device. One are the gestures. I don't like them when they're in the notes because they trigger too easy, so I have to turn them off. But when you're navigating the device any other way, it really works well. So if I want to see all the open programs I have, I just swipe in this corner and now I can see that. So if you're an Android user, that's familiar. That's something that you can see. You can also leave the scroll bar on the bottom and do it that way, but I prefer this way. It's really nice to have that. I can also just close whatever I'm in by swiping from the middle, which is very nice. And then I can go ahead and pull up the e-ink center right from here. So it's very quick, very easy. I can set it up to swipe refresh. I haven't done that, but I can. So you can set your side gestures as well. I like that it has the widget screens. You'll notice when I do this full review series on all of these different, I set this up the same way. So my Note Max looks exactly like this with the different tools and the different groupings and groups and Android structure because I have an Android phone. So for me, that's very comfortable. It's very familiar. And then I have them categorized here. So if I go out, I can go over here to my kind of widget screen. You can add widgets anywhere, but this is kind of that quick launch screen. And I haven't really customized this too much because I don't mind what's here. You've got your library, your store, storage, notes, settings. You got your library here. You've got your notes. So if you go into your recent notes, you'll see this is where I wrote the blog that I wrote here just a while back. And when I go through, it's a little bit sluggish for some reason all of a sudden. So, this was daily driving the Note Air 5C. This was the blog I just wrote, more on the hardware side. And we'll talk about those hardware limitations during this video too. This has been what I've been mainly doing throughout this entire time. Let's also talk about kind of the things that I mentioned from a hardware perspective. So one thing that I do like a lot about this device is I like this case very much. I don't like it as much as I did the old one from a functional perspective, but from an aesthetic, just pure aesthetic, this is a beautiful case. This is almost a canvas feeling folio. Very nice, very comfortable. They cut out the power port here, which I think was brilliant on their part, because something that had been asked for by the community and something that, quite frankly, just needed to be there. Because otherwise you had to constantly leave this open to charge it. And that just wasn't convenient at all for anybody, I don't think. What I don't like about it is that they took away one of the folds, I believe, and Trey has the Note Air 4C, so I'm gonna have to ask him a little bit about that. But they took away one of the folds, and what that does is makes it very hard to be able to fold this where it's level. And for some reason, I cannot get it to fold level. And others have done the same thing with this and shown it. And this won't pick up probably on camera. But right now, there's just a slight rock in this because it's not quite flat. So it's just a slight incline when you fold it like that, because the other one tinted out and then in, and that allowed you to do this. And then the same thing is true when you go into this mode. It's even more pronounced when you're trying to put this in portrait, because it's just not made the same way. It doesn't have that dual fold where you get that full triangle on both sides coming out the back. And instead it's this, and you can kind of see it here. It's just not as elegant. And I don't know why they did that. I kind of wish they'd have left it this material, but then do it the right way. So, I mean, here, let me see if I can kind of see the folio protrudes a little bit there. And that's what's causing that slight slope. And I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I would much rather have it be symmetrical and really work. But from a feel, from carrying this thing around, it's even got, it feels like less magnets, so it's not quite as heavy. The other kind of miss and wonderful thing about this is this new stylus. It's great in a lot of ways, but really misses the mark in others. One is if you don't give it a slight twist, this will fall off really, really easily. See how easy that is to pull? It just pulls right off of there. And then, but if you give it just the slightest of twists, now that's not coming off. So it's a nice stylus. It's really nice in that compared to the Pen 2 Pro, which I did not like at all. It had an eraser on it, and I did like the eraser function, but I didn't like that it was smooth here. This one's smooth as well, so I miss that tactile grip, but this one is weighted so much better, and it has this clip, which does work really well once you give it that little bit of a twist. But the problem is the magnet placement. And I'm not the first one to say this, but if you put it where it's supposed to go, which is up here, you're going to hit that volume button. So you have to put it here, which then forces you to use the flap. Because if you don't use the flap, this is going to just fall right off. That connection is so weak. And that's sad because it's not a bad pen. I still prefer the regular stylus a little bit more. Even though this has what feels like a harder nib on it. And if you look at it, it's got a little bit harder nib there. But again, not a bad stylus at all. I do wish they'd have done just a little bit more with it. Machined it, made it a little bit smaller, made it fit, or move the magnets down on the device. I know they basically took the same housing, but they added 2 buttons, so they could have just slid those magnets down a little bit, and this could have clipped right where they say it's supposed to and been just as sturdy and just as good. So that bothers me. The only other real complaint that I have about this device is the keyboard case, and it's not for the reason that you may think. I mean, you can see here, it's a bit bigger than this case, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the problem with it is it's so heavy, and it's heavy in a way that it's well made. I don't dislike it at all. Definitely don't like the flap, but the flap in this case actually does do some good. But when I go and I take this out, and let's take a look at this case, and this will be the last thing we cover from just the hardware perspective. And I'll pop some hardware stats and kind of what the actual hardware numbers are on the screen. But you know, they made a good decision here in allowing you to have the pogo pins. So you have the pogo pins on the back. This slots right in. It's a little hard to get out when the time comes. And then it has this pop-up menu that pops up and tells you what you might want to do. And then you just slot it in. And when you do that, it really is a nice package. I enjoy the typing experience on it. The problem is that although when I say I enjoy it as opposed to some other type folio type things, but this is not a premium keyboard. This is not going to be like a premium Bluetooth keyboard like my Logitech here or my QWERKYWRITER or anything like that. But what it will do is give you a portable package. So I can sit here and type, and the travel is not awful. It works decent. I do wish they'd have put a secondary channel here since they took away the trackpad, which I think was a really smart idea. But if they'd have put a second channel right about here so that you have a little bit more of an incline when you were typing, I think it would have made it a lot better. Right now, this is just wasted space, and I really don't understand why they did that. I'm sure there was a reason. I just don't know what it is. And you've got good support. I would not put this on your lap. I did try it because I had someone ask me, and it just wasn't a good experience. It doesn't really hold up well that way. On a desk, it works just fine. So if you're at a table, you're in a coffee shop, and you want to type on this, it works really well. I didn't notice it being any faster than typing on a Bluetooth keyboard, but it's just not as it's just not as fun as what you've seen on like the Remarkable. And I don't know why, again, they did that. The only problem I have with it, though, is the fact that other than some minor problems, the only real issue is that if I go to use the device, I can't really use it in this case because you can see that is very thick. And I don't know if that's coming through completely on camera. And I know in the past they'd had an issue where the keys stayed active. And so it would cause problems if you tried to write on it with the Tab Ultra C Pro. This doesn't have that issue. Right now, the keys are not going to get accidentally pressed. I'm not going to have any issue with that. The problem is I have to lift my wrist up so high to be able to write because it's just so thick versus the regular folio, which is very thin. And so even in the case, you're looking at just a huge difference between these two things. But that's just a limitation. So then that leads you to the dilemma. Do you buy yourself, because this is $119.99 for this folio. Do you buy this and then still carry the regular folio with you? Or do you just buy a really nice portable, whether it's foldable or whether it's just portable Bluetooth keyboard that you're going to take with you? That's that decision you would have to make. It is nice to be able to carry this. The problem is I find anytime that I want to write with this case, then I still have to take this out and I have to put it on. Well, first of all, I have to turn it upside down. I have to turn it back the right way. And now the case is just an extra thing that I have to have. And there are no rubber feet, so it's going to slide around a bit. Again, that's a decision that you kind of have to make. Nobody can make it for you. And it also, when you pull it out, it ends up you have to flip it around to get it into the right orientation. Now, one thing that I will say is the magnet holds really well. And this is where the pen problem kind of gets solved. I mean, you can see how thick this is. Well, the pro or con, depending on how you look at it that way, is that you can't possibly press the buttons because they're down here at the bottom now instead of being at the top. So not only are they at the bottom, but when you put the pen on, there's no magnetic connection at all. There's just no way for that to work. So what I found was the best way to do it was to use the flap and then put the pen cap over the flap. Now, truth is, that's a very nice package. That is easy to carry. It works really well. The problem is you still have to deal with that flap every time you go to do anything. So overall hardware, you can't beat this device from the amount of RAM, the fact that it can have a keyboard case if you want one, and the fact that it is portable, it's lightweight, it's very nice in the hand. It's light especially when it's out of its cases. And so I really do like it from a hardware perspective. So now let's talk about, I'm going to leave the front light off for now, just because I think that it's going to be helpful for this demonstration. And since I've got plenty of light in here, you'll be able to see the colors kind of at their best. You'll be able to get to see a little bit of what I use on this. There'll be an even longer review, but I'm going to show you the things that I tend to use. So we'll go back into my blog that I wrote about this particular device. And you'll notice that I tried to make use of a lot of different features. So if you're in a note and you come up here, you're going to see that I use the outline tool. And the outline tool is similar to the Supernote headings in the fact that it gives you a nice table of contents. It's actually better in some ways because when you export this to PDF, you get to maintain this outline. And it is tied to the page. And then you can create a sub outline. Now, a couple of frustration points with that. One, there's no visual cue that you have a heading. The reason that this looks the way it does is because this has tags. And if you go into that same menu, here are your pages, there's your outline, and here are your tags. And you'll see that I have a bunch of different tags in here. The problem is when you go to tag something, you can only add 5. And I've got more in here because I added more throughout on different items. But for the overall note, so if I was going to tag this as a note, and that's what I generally do with my heading is I tag it as a note. So for example, this one was a blog, it was books, was Note Air 5C. I can't remember all 5 I used, but whatever it was, I put all of those in there and then I was capped. I couldn't do anything else. Little bit of a downer, but at least it does let you do that. And it does show you that that's a tag and that travels all the way through. And then you'll see when we go through a couple more of these, like hardware and specifications, I put in there hardware specifications, a couple other things just to make sure that I had that. One small frustration point with the outline though, is that in order to create a sub outline, which is what I wanted to do here, for example, with hardware and specifications, and then I wanted accessories to be a sub outline. Intuitively, you would think you would be able to hold down, which is how you create your outline. And then you would be able to add to outline and make it a sub outline. That's not the way you do it. It's not super unintuitive, but what you have to do is you have to go into your outline and then you have to actually choose the top level outline that you had made and then say add the sub outline. So just a little bit of a friction point. And then of course you have to tell it what page. If you're on that page, it works just fine. If you're not, you can tell it another page and then move it there. Another thing I really liked was the actual writing feel on this device. It's not as great as some other devices, but it's not bad. I mean, it's definitely not, I wouldn't call it paper-like because it is just a different nib, but it works and it doesn't feel horrible. It's still not my favorite though. I truly love the ceramic on kind of that squishy, almost gel-like texture that you get on the Supernote devices, but I don't dislike this at all. And I didn't find that I was getting overly fatigued as I was writing. They also have a very good calligraphy pen, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I don't use color, although this does have it. And we can go in, and I've shown this before, but let's just add a little bit of color here in this last one. So if we wanted to go back in, I'm in the fountain pen here. Yeah, I'm in the fountain pen here. And I end up writing quite a bit with the fountain pen. So let's go ahead and take that up a bit on the fountain pen. And you'll see here, you get a nice line. Very good colors. It is comfortable to write with. And then I love the scribble erase. That is probably one of my favorite tools on the BOOX platform, because when you use it, it works almost every time, and it's extremely accurate. As long as you scribble over everything you want to erase, it's going to take it out of there. Now, you do miss occasionally, and that happens, but it's not a big deal. I don't tend to use shapes or anything like that. I don't really use the toolbar hardly ever, since I have the scribble to erase. So I shrink my toolbar down to this, and you'll notice it's very, very customized. I have my AI button, which I left on there, and that's just primarily for my AI tools. So the perfect shapes, if I want to use them, scribble to erase, and the AI text recognition. Because for some reason, and this was my biggest frustration point when it came to notes, you cannot export the way I would want to on this platform. And that's not a dig at them, it's just the reality. First of all, if you do want to share, and you can go here, you can share one page, you can share all, say select all, and then say export. Now, what I don't mind too much is you can resize it, you can show all layers, but you can only do either the books format or vector PDF, or a bitmap PDF. That's it. There are no other options. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why they won't let you do that. Now you can share to other apps, but it's not going to let you do like a text file this way. And if I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments. I was unable to find it. I tried it every way I could think of, and it just would not work. So again, I could do it as a bitmap. I could do it as as another PDF, and that was it. In order to take this off, like I did for my blog, I had to go into AI, text recognition, and I always have it recognizing all pages, and I have it doing recognition in the background. So I turned those features on. It does it, and their recognition is excellent. Very good, actually, and probably been the best I've seen. Here, though, is where I can choose text. Why it default if you do turn on that particular feature. I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. So if you understand why they do that, let me know in the comments. But most of the time, I turn this toolbar completely off. And you turn it off, you've got your canvas. I have my scribble to erase. And even the selection tool is phenomenal on this. So if I just go ahead and circle that, and I didn't even have to do it great. And you can see, and I missed, the C there, but it did a great job on that. And again, if I just circle this little piece here and just move that around, put it wherever I want, it was very easy when I was writing this. I'd be like, I need to insert a sentence. And I would just move a couple of words up and around and over, and it worked well every time. Very rarely did I have any issues at all with doing that. So that's why I would leave this hidden. I just didn't use it, and it worked very, very well. Another thing that I think is excellent on this device is the handwriting recognition for titles, or any time, quite frankly, that you're using the note interface or the handwriting keyboard. The handwriting keyboard's phenomenal. I like the way it works. I like the way it functions. And let me show that real quick. So let's go ahead and let's go back into the Kindle, and we'll see if we can find. Oh, it looks like it got closed. Well, let's, yeah, I don't know how that happened. Maybe it closed it in the background. But this gives me a chance to show you something else. I know a lot of people don't like the Naviball. I love it. And I love it because of this. I love that I can just quickly go here. It auto minimizes when I don't want it. I don't know how it got moved up there. I always keep it down here at the bottom. It auto minimizes when I don't need it. When I do need it, it pops open. I've got shortcuts for everything here, and then it takes me directly into that. All right, so let's highlight some text. Now, one thing you'll notice here is we'll just go ahead and we'll do a note. So when this pops up, I really like BOOX's approach here. And I think that what they've done is something unique because they give you so many different options to be able to enter your text without taking away things. So you can copy, you can add a recording, you can easily switch over to the regular keyboard and back. It's very well done and implemented. But my favorite part is, let's say this is a note. I don't have to worry because that is going to pick up and it's going to make it the right way. So there it is. I have that now. Now, if I come out and I click on that, and you'll see here it says this is a note. So it just works, and it works well. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and go to a Neo reader, and this is where I'll show you that. Okay, let's go into The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So here we are, and we're in Sherlock Holmes. And one thing about the BOOX ecosystem that I've really come to like is how you can customize now on 4.1, even though there's so many menus. But I like that you can cut those down a bit. So for example, I'm going to hold this open, and you'll see that I still have quite a few tools here, but very few. I can highlight, I can underline, and then I can add an annotation. I still have dictionaries if I want them, and I can link. But I actually stripped this way down even on the Note Max to have only copy, paste, annotate, and I think underline and highlight. I got rid of link. I got rid of AI. So it was less than one line. I didn't leave share, none of that, all of that gone. Other dictionaries was gone. So I compressed that down, and I like that about the BOOX platform that I'm able to do that. So that being customizable, and if you go into this, so if I go into customize, you're going to notice that there are quite a few things that I can add here. And it's it's a lot. So only 3 on this one I don't have, but that's primarily because on the Note Max, I stripped it down even further and took a lot of these out because I didn't need links. I didn't need all of that. But being able to take that down, and then you get 2 toolbars. So now, and I haven't set this one up to be on the left yet, but this is your writing and annotating toolbar. This is where you get your lasso. This is where you get your text. You can add all kinds of things in here. And this, again, more menus. There are so many. But again, it's really useful. So if you go into split view, and then for the sake of it, usually I do horizontal, but let's just do vertical this time. And then I'm going to say you can do a handwritten note, another document. You can open the same document in 2 different places, or you could do a text note. Well, let's say that I want to do a handwritten document. Now I am in split screen, which is really nice. If you ever get rid of your toolbar, you can do a top swipe within a note and bring that toolbar back. So now I have that same floating toolbar. I can pull this back up if I want, and I can continue along with everything that I need to do. And then I can swipe it away if I want it to go away. But it's now created a reading note. And I think that's just phenomenal. I really do. I enjoy it a lot, and I think that it really works well. Now, from a productivity standpoint, like I said, my biggest issue was getting stuff off. Getting things off of the device was not easy. Reading was good. One feature that is probably one of my favorite things is the automatic sync of PDFs. And so, for example, when I was writing my notes, I've got it set so that you can automatically have it back up to Google Drive. So any notes that I take are going to be automatically backed up to Google Drive in a PDF format. The problem is I don't really use them in PDF that much. I always take them off. I put them into Obsidian. And so for my workflow, that was a pain point. That was something that was not going to help me a whole lot. But I could see if all I did was need that written record and all I needed was my easy access and quick access to my handwritten notes, that's a really good way to do that because the Books app is a little bit clunky. This backup to PDF in your drive of choice is phenomenal because it's really quick. As soon as you close that note, it's sending off that updated PDF and it just replaces the PDF and adds the text that you had. So it's almost real time. It's extremely good. And one thing I did want to show really quickly, and there will be more videos on this. This one has been a little bit rambling in some ways, but also I think really important when it comes to understanding how this device works. The colors are good. Let's go into Kindle again. And this time I want to show you a comic book. So we'll go to Kindle. I managed to find some nice panels. This is a really good experience. Now, I'm not a huge comic book fan. I am a Star Trek fan. Gabriel, for those of you who are familiar with the Star Trek universe, Gabriel bought me a red shirt. So I don't know exactly what that means, but these are really well displayed panels. I mean, they really look good. And there's supposed to be a way, and oh, there it is. So you double tap and you can actually go panel by panel. And I've set this on a really good refresh speed, but you can see unless you go into something with a black background, you don't see a lot of ghosting. And it moves really fast. So it's a good experience. Again, I'm not much of a comic book reader, but I really do like the way these colors pop. So I'm thinking, maybe if I do get into graphic novels or something in the future, and this was one of the free books you could download and look at on Kindle. And I did it also. Vlad is a big Ninja Turtles fan. So we can go out and let's just look at a couple of the Ninja Turtles. But I think these greens are very vibrant. It looks really good in person. It's a little bit darker in person than what you might be seeing on the screen. The reds are a little off, but when you're not comparing this to a high resolution video or a high resolution picture, you're going to have a lot of trouble being able to tell the difference. It's a lot more vibrant in person. And again, when I watch back, we'll see how good it looks. But it's really good here. And you can see those greens are really well done. One other thing that I do want to talk about is the split screen globally. So I showed you the reading note. And one thing that frustrates me a little bit about the reading note is that that note you saw me taking gets tied to the note. It doesn't get tied to the page. So if I take a note, it's basically, I have to make a notation in the side saying this is from page such and such. If I don't want that note to be a reading note, so here's the example, because reading notes you cannot save with your regular notes either. Let's go back to Kindle. And so let's say that I want to take and I want to open a note. So we'll just do a notebook, press the icon, say create, and we will do a handwritten note. And we will go ahead and say horizontal 26 and we'll say create. And now here we are with our notebook and we can go ahead and say, now the nice thing about this is this is going to save in a regular notebook. So this isn't going to be a reading note. It's not actually tied to this. So if you're reading multiple books, if you're using multiple sources, I would recommend not using the reading note, but starting from this and then opening a note separately. That would be my recommendation. And then you can go ahead and go out with your gestures. All right, we will go ahead and sum this up and I will see you here in a minute. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there through the video. There was a lot of editing in this one. I found that I was being kind of scattershot. In all of the lead up to this, I've been using this device so much that I had so much to say and I have to be a little bit more strategic. Bear with me. I mentioned at the beginning and the intro, which I actually filmed after I did the device walkthrough. There's just a lot, and I don't want to miss anything, but I want to highlight both the strengths and the challenges of this platform. That's why there's going to be more videos. There's some things that I cut out of this that I felt like just needed to be covered another way or another time. And that's why we're going to have multiple videos on this device. Most of you know I tend to try to do the initial review all at once, but I just don't think I can on this device. And really, I shouldn't on any of them. I mean, even my Supernote videos, you all know there's constantly something new. There's constantly something changing. So I will do some proper tutorials on this device and some proper walkthroughs. But again, there are more powerful users out there than me. If you look at KitBet's Masters channel, if you look at Voy over at My Deep Guide, if you look at Aaron at 2530 Media or Jeffrey Moss, they go through and really deep dive into a lot of these tools. I look at the tools that I use and that are going to make me more powerful. At one point, we will look at Obsidian, which unfortunately I found was a little clunky in here. But again, that's something that may be a me issue, and I want to make sure that I've covered all my bases and really gotten you the right information. So what are the big things, the big takeaways from this video? This is a solid device. You are not going to go wrong if you purchase this device, as long as you are someone who likes to really jump in and learn technology, someone who likes to dig around in menus and customize your experience. There is literally no more customizable device on the planet than this one. And I mean BOOX in general. All of their products have menus within menus within menus, and you can customize to so large of a degree on how you engage with that device. But that takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And if you're not the person who's going to be able to invest that time, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to get frustrated really quickly. If you're coming from iOS, if you're coming from an LCD or an OLED tablet, those things are a different experience. If you're expecting this to be that, then you're going to be let down. However, if you're coming from reading paper books, if you're coming from taking notes on paper, and you do want some extra, a pop of color, or you want to be able to read in kind of newsprint color, then this is going to be a wonderful little device for you. If you like comics, it's not going to be as vibrant as what you get on LCD, but it's very good at handling those comics. It's very good at handling images and photographs. So again, would I recommend this device? Absolutely. Would I recommend the keyboard cover? I don't know. It depends on what you want. I would say that if you need something that you can carry the device in and you need it to connect without having to worry about a Bluetooth connection or carrying something totally separate, yes. Is it worth $119? I don't think so personally, but I would look for it to go on sale. I would look for, maybe as it improves, but it's solid. I personally prefer Bluetooth keyboards because BOOX has that pretty much solved. They're fast, they're quick, and they can be used for multiple devices. But thank you all so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. We're approaching 4,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much. This is our second year, and you'll see my patrons and my YouTube insiders scrolling on the screen right now. You all have been a huge part of this journey. I can't imagine doing it without you. But until next time, thank you all so much. Keep on moving forward, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.